sing some songs, and then we're going to get into our Bible study. But if you'll please stand, let's sing these out and worship our Lord together.
Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we're going to see the King. There's no more crying there. Going to see the King. There's no more crying there. We are going to see the King. No, there's no more crying there. We are going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we're going to see the King. There'll be no more dying there. We are going to see the King. No more dying there. We are going to see the King. I said, no more dying there. We are going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we're going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we're going to see the King.
Amen.
Lord, oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. And I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest times, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now,
All right. Good evening, everyone. How you doing? That's good. If you got your Bibles, we're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 8 tonight. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chris Brown. I'm the associate pastor here. Pastor Lee, if you didn't know, is on vacation right now. And so last week you got Jacob. This week you get me. But he's going to be back on Sunday, so don't worry. He will be right back here. All right. Ecclesiastes is where we're going to be. How many of you are enjoying Ecclesiastes? Well, you shouldn't be because it's depressing, right? It's not really a lighthearted kind of book. It's the theme, the resounding theme of Ecclesiastes is what? Life is meaningless. Or some of your translations may put futile or vanity or insert some kind of other word for meaningless right there. But actually, I really enjoy Ecclesiastes. By the way, I just want to ask, I'll let you know, the translation that I'm using tonight is the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. So if you like to download the specific translation so you're reading exactly with me, that's the one that I'm going to be reading from tonight. I really enjoy Ecclesiastes because most people think that Solomon wrote it. It doesn't specifically say, but there's some reasons to believe that it's Solomon. But one of the reasons that I think it is Solomon is because he had to deal a lot with like wisdom literature. Like that was a really big deal to him, was wisdom. And what we're going to see is that Ecclesiastes basically takes like the philosophies of the day and then says like, what's a Christian response to these philosophies? We're going to get more into that later. But one of the ones that I always like to compare Ecclesiastes to is nihilism. Do y'all know what nihilism is? Like Friedrich Nietzsche. He was the one, I think in the 1800s, 1700s, something like that. He famously stated that God is dead. And because God is dead, life is meaningless. And I always like to present that Solomon, presumably, in Ecclesiastes, is sort of a Christian nihilist. Now, of course, nihilism wasn't even a thing at that time. This was written, thousands of years beforehand. But I like to present that Solomon was a Christian nihilist to some degree because he agreed that life is meaningless if God is dead. But he almost takes the inverse of it. God is not dead. God is alive, therefore life does have meaning as long as you pair it with God. Because the ending of Ecclesiastes is, does anyone know how Solomon or the preacher concludes Ecclesiastes? He says that life comes down to two principles. What are they? Y'all remember? To fear God and to keep his commands. He basically, this is the sum of life, to fear God and to keep his commands. And so when you retroactively read that into, if you read his final conclusion into Ecclesiastes, all of a sudden you see him saying, oh, life isn't meaningless. Life is only meaningless if there is no God. But once you, as we're going to see tonight, he's actually all throughout Ecclesiastes, he does say, enjoy life. But you need to enjoy life within the proper perspective. All right, so that's kind of just an intro into tonight. Okay, anything else that anyone wants to kind of recap for us that we studied already? Any topics of Ecclesiastes? No? Cool. All right, fantastic. All right, we're going to be in chapter 8 tonight, and hopefully we'll get through chapter 9 as well. But let's just start in chapter 8. Starting in verse 1, who is like the wise person, and who knows the interpretation of a matter? A person's wisdom brightens his face, and the sternness of his face is changed. And so Solomon, or the preacher here, is going to almost give a call to wisdom here, like a rhetorical question of like, who is the wise person? And then he's going to describe what this wise person looks like. And so he's almost like implicitly calling us to heed the advice that he's about to give so that we might be wise as they are wise. And this wisdom that brings, changes a person in how they outlook on life. And so let's see what that is. Verse 2, keep the king's command because of your oath made before God. Do not be in a hurry. Leave his presence and do not persist in a bad cause, since he will do whatever he wants. For the king's word is authoritative, and who can say to him, 'What are you doing?' The one who keeps the command will not experience anything harmful, and a wise heart knows the right time and procedure. For every activity, there is a right time and procedure, even though a person's troubles are heavy on him. Yet no one will know what will happen, because who can tell him what will happen?" Okay, so let's stop right there. So this passage is a little bit obscure. In fact, if you look at amongst the different translations, everyone's going to translate this passage slightly differently because it's hard to know exactly what the original Hebrew is trying to get at here. For example, in verse 2, it says, "Keep the king's command because of your oath made before God." Who is the oath to? Is the oath made to the king, or is the oath made to God? Depending on the translation that you read, it's going to kind of lean one way or the other, because there's a situation in which, he made an oath to the king to serve the king, and so he needs to keep that. Or he made an oath to God, so he needs to serve God. Or maybe both. Maybe he made an oath to enter into a position to advise the king, and that oath was to the king and to God at the same time. And so it's a little bit obscure there. But bare minimum, what we can gather just from that opening statement here is that likely Solomon is talking to someone who is close to a king and maybe plays an advisory role with the king, because he's going to talk about how this person basically is in a position where he can question the king's command to a degree. So let's read here and look at through that lens now, like someone who has a position in which they can talk to the king personally and tell him, and unless the preacher tells him to deal with it. So verse 2, "Keep the king's command because of your oath made before God. Do not be in a hurry, leave his presence, and don't persist in a bad cause, since he will do whatever he wants. For the king's word is authoritative, and who can say to him, 'What are you doing?'" So what's almost being presented here is a situation in which the king is making a bad decision, right? The CSB translates it like don't persist in a bad cause, like implying that the king is heading down a bad path. Other translations will actually translate evil cause, that they're heading down an evil path. Later on, it's going to talk about being dispatched to war, and so maybe he's likening this cause that the king is going down to, it's going to take the whole community into a war. Again, it's hard to say because it's rather obscure. But what's the advice that's given to this person in dealing with the king? Don't be in a hurry to do what? To leave the king's presence. So why would you scurry off in a hurry to leave the king's presence? Likely because in this bad cause, in this bad situation, you disagree. Like he's almost presenting a case in which the king is heading down a path, you disagree with the king, and Solomon's almost giving them some wisdom of tread carefully in how you disagree with the king. Why would you tread carefully? Yeah, because you could die, right? You cross the king. The king, depending on the king, if it's a good king, he wants people to question him. If it's a bad king, he wants yes men around him. So the moment you don't become a yes man, what's going to happen? Yeah, you're out, right? In fact, if you see, you'll read through the Old Testament prophets, and I think it's Isaiah that calls this out, that there are some Old Testament prophets that bear the name prophet, but they're really just yes men. And in Isaiah calling out the kings and the people of Israel, he also has a section when he calls out these so-called prophets, because the prophets aren't really prophets, they're just acting as yes men, just telling the king what he wants to hear. And so this is kind of hard for us to wrap our mind around because we live in such a democratic, free society that, okay, you can disagree with whoever you want, and that's your freedom of speech. But if you're in an advisory role really close to the king, I don't know. You might tread carefully on that. And so Solomon here is basically giving them some wisdom. Hey, tread carefully in how you disagree with the king because he has authority to do whatever he wants. Verse 4, "For the king's word is authoritative, and who can say to him, 'What are you doing?'" The one who keeps the command will not experience anything harmful, and a wise heart knows the right time and procedure. For every activity, there's a right time and procedure, even though a person's troubles are heavy on him. Now, I don't think this is the ultimate point that Solomon is getting at in this passage, but it does bring up an interesting point for us, because we are not advisors to the king. However, most of us do have employment somewhere, right? Most of us do have a supervisor in whom we answer to. And most of us have seen something go on in our employment that we're like, I don't know if we should do that right there. Do you think this has application to us? I think so, 100%. Particularly in this statement right here, the one who keeps and a wise heart knows the right time and procedure. For every activity, there's a right time and procedure. Imagine a scenario that you go into a new job. This is your first week on the job. You walk in and you see everything is wrong. You're not the boss. You're just an employee. Everything is wrong. What would happen if you go in there day one and you start pointing out, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Y'all need to switch out everything. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah. They're going to fire you, or you're going to have a bad time in your job. They don't even know you. It's like, who are you to come in here and tell us how to do our job? I think that can definitely apply to us, that even if you go in and you see something going wrong, there is a wisdom into how to approach that situation. How do we address the thing that's going wrong? Do we just go in bulls are running, or do we have some diplomacy in how we interact with the thing? I think that's ultimately kind of what Solomon is addressing here, that with the advisor to the king, there's diplomacy in how you handle disagreements with the king, lest you die. There's ways to handle ways that you disagree. Here's a note on here that the whole ultimate purpose of the government, whether it be the monarchy of the Old Testament or the dictatorship of the New Testament or the democratic nature of our government, the ultimate purpose, according to God, of the government is to uphold justice, is to be the God's right-hand sword to enact justice on the people. And so that's why in Romans, the Bible encourages us to submit to the government and to submit to the authoritative role of the government. However, also in the New Testament in Acts, whenever they tell, I believe it's Peter and John, to stop preaching, they say, hey, we're going to obey God and not men. And so there's a limit to submitting to the government whenever the government starts to tell you to go against God, right? And so there is, I don't think Solomon's boxing in and saying, like, never buck the system. I think he's saying, use some discretion, use some wisdom in how you go about that situation. But ultimately, I don't think that's the ultimate purpose that Solomon's getting at here. I think the ultimate purpose that Solomon starts to move into is addressing the situation of wickedness among the world. And I think what he's getting at here is he's addressing wickedness amongst the leadership level and how that funnels down amongst everyone else. So let's pick it back up in verse 6. For every activity, there's a right time and procedure, even though a person's troubles are heavy on him. So you see the wickedness that weighs on you. How do we move forward? Verse 7, yet no one knows what will happen, because who can tell him what will happen? No one has the authority over the wind to restrain it, and there is no authority over the day of death. No one is discharged during battle, and wickedness will not allow those who practice it to escape. And so he starts to move into the death aspect, which is really the theme of this passage that we're talking about tonight, how do we grapple with death in this? Okay, verse 9, all of this I have seen, applying my mind to all the work that is done under the sun, at a time when one person has authority over another to his harm. And so again, I think what he's talking about with the king heading down evil or bad paths, he's talking about wickedness in the leadership position, which trickles down into harm on the societal level in that. Now he starts to switch into societal level wickedness they see. Verse 10. In such circumstances, I saw the wicked buried. They came and went from the holy place, and they were praised in the city where they did those things. Now, what's he describing here? So I saw the wicked buried. so a funeral, right? People dying. The wicked buried, they came and went from the holy place. A lot of people liken that to maybe part of their funeral processional was coming to the holy place of God and then coming back. But here's the real interesting part, and they were praised in the city where they did those things. If they were wicked and did wicked things, why are they being praised after they die? And so what he's starting to describe here is a world in which the wicked perish and then the wicked are praised as they perish. And so the wickedness is not only on a leadership level with the king, the wickedness has moved down into the societal level with all the people around them. But then he moves even further in verse 11, because the sentence against an evil act is not carried out quickly, the heart of people is filled with a desire to commit evil. And so now it's almost moving to a systemic level of evilness that the government is supposed to punish evil, yet the government is not punishing evil, yet delaying it. Therefore, evil is being incentivized, and more people are doing the evil. We've seen this in our own lifetime, right? So I think it's in California where they decriminalized theft under $500. Is that right? What started to happen? Yeah, there's more theft under $500. There's these videos all over the place of Walgreens or whatever, where people would just waltz in, not even pretend to hide it, where they would go fill up their bags. And as long as they stayed under $500, no one can do anything. You call the police, they're not going to respond because it's decriminalized to steal under $500. And so whenever the government starts to not uphold justice, what does that do? It incentivizes the evil that you're not upholding. And that's what's described in here, because this is verse 11, because the sentence against an evil act is not carried out quickly, they're delaying punishing, the heart of a people is filled with a desire to commit evil. Interesting. It's almost like with my kids. My daughter tonight, before we left, we were at home, and her brother, my daughter's 5, Judson, her brother's 3, and they got into a disagreement over something. I don't know what it was. And then I just heard my son start crying. and I was like, you two knock it off. And then I look in there, and my son's holding his arm like this. And I called Lottie, Lottie, get in here. It's like, Lottie, why is he holding his arm? She said, I don't know. I was like, what did you do? And she's looking at me did you hit him? And she's looking at me, and she's like, yes. And I was like, I got to punish this now. I have to, thank you for telling me the truth, but there has to be a punishment, because if I don't punish that, what does that do? What that communicates is, that's okay. It's okay to do that. So what do we have to do? Do what? Yeah. Yeah, it's just going to escalate further. So what I have to do, I did an act of punishment to show that is not okay to do that. Blow that up on societal level, and I think that's what it's getting at here. So far we've seen wickedness among a leadership level with the king. We've seen wickedness among a societal level and celebrating wickedness even after people die. And we see wickedness on a systemic level because they're not punishing wickedness on that. All this is leading to a point. Verse 12. Although a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, I also know it will go well with God-fearing people, for they are reverent before him. So the conclusion, if you look on the leadership level, the societal level, and the systemic level, there's wickedness everywhere. The conclusion is, what's going on? Where's God in all this? The wicked aren't being punished. In fact, they seem like they're thriving. So why even be righteous? Why even do anything? It doesn't seem like God cares. And that's where verse 12 starts to turn the corner. Although a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, I know that will go well with God-fearing people, for they are reverent before him. Verse 13, however, it will not go well with the wicked, and they will not lengthen their days like a shadow, for they are not reverent before God. And so he's starting to introduce this idea that don't worry, even though it seems like the wicked are prospering, God knows. God sees what's going on here. And this is almost counteracting what's known as Deuteronomic theology. So in the book of Deuteronomy, when God is giving his last covenantal appeal to the Israelites before they move into the promised land. He basically lays out, in a nutshell, the covenant. Like, hey, if you follow me and listen to obey my commands, you will prosper. If you don't follow me, you will not prosper. And so what the Israelites did was they created an almost like karma-like theology based off of that. Therefore, if I do good things, God will give me good things. If I do bad things, God will give me bad things. This is really like the question that's answered in Job, if you've really read that. Like Job is basically answering that question right there. You have a guy who's done good things, yet bad things are happening to him. Why? We also see this right here in Ecclesiastes, where you have wicked who are doing bad things, yet they seem to prosper, and you have people who are doing good things, yet they seem to suffer. Why? We'll see. We'll see the answer to that in here. All right, any questions so far? So far, we're seeing that this is deviated a little bit from the previous theme of Ecclesiastes, because in Ecclesiastes, he almost like evaluates the section of life and then says, this is meaningless. And then he evaluates another section. Don't worry, it's coming. And here it is, verse 14. This is a futility that is done on the earth. That word futility is, do some of your translations use meaningless there? Yeah. So that's the meaningless word, or the vanity word right there. There is a futility or a meaningless or a vanity that is done on earth. There are righteous people who get what the actions of the wicked deserve, and there are wicked people who get what the actions of the righteous deserve. I say that this too is futile or meaningless or vain. So I commended enjoyment because there is nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat, drink, and enjoy himself, for this will accompany him in his labor during the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. That's a weird way to conclude that, right? So it basically concludes the righteous suffer, the wicked prosper, therefore, just enjoy life. Why would he end it that way? Or he's not done with the thought, but why would he conclude kind of that initial thought? Make your best of it. Almost. It's kind of like, hey, what's going on in the metaphysical justice of the world that God is maintaining? It seems like things are awry, and it seems that the wicked prosper and the righteous suffer. Can we explain this? No. So therefore, don't try. Therefore, just take a step back. Just enjoy life. It's not your job to judge the world. It's not your job to figure out who deserves what and then make sure they get what they get and that these people don't get what they don't deserve. And that's not your job. Your job is to sit back and enjoy life, to eat, drink, and enjoy himself. One of the commentaries that I read basically said that this isn't like eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we suffer, but it's more like walk by faith, not by sight. It's like just you do what you're supposed to do, let God handle the rest. I think that's going to become a little bit more apparent as we keep going throughout it. Is that the end of chapter 8? Yeah, that is the end of chapter 8. Okay, he's going to keep expanding on this idea of death, but before we do, any questions or thoughts about that? I didn't do 16? Oh, that escaped my notes. My bad. Okay. All right. 16. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the activity that is done on earth, even though one's eyes do not close in sleep day or night, I observed all the work of God and concluded that a person is unable to discover the work that is done under the sun. Even though a person labors hard to explore it, he cannot find it. Even if a wise person claims to know it, he's unable to discover it. So this almost like expands on what I just said right there. That our job is to not try to figure out what God is doing. Our job is to take care of what we're supposed to do, let God do what he's supposed to do, right there in that. And he even encourages not to try to figure it out in that. All right, okay, now any questions or thoughts? Have y'all ever had that question, by the way? Have y'all ever saw something happen? Let's say someone died. who was a righteous person, or seemingly righteous person, at the very least a good person by the world's standards. They die young, and then over here you see someone who's like a scumbag, and they're doing great. Have you ever looked at that situation and said, why? Why is that happening? I think that's a fair question, right? I think it's fair to see a kid who's 4 years old with leukemia who dies and say, why? While you see someone over here who's done nothing but cheat, steal, and swindle people their whole life, yet it seems like their life is going great. I've had that question asked to me. I've thought that question before. That's a fair question. And what's presented here is in the cosmic realm of justice, in which God is holy and just and upholds justice, there's things going on that we don't even understand. In fact, if y'all remember in Job, that's really, again, the whole question of Job is why? Why is this righteous man suffering? And God's response to Job at the end of it was, were you there when the earth was formed? Are you able to control everything that's going on in the palm of your hand? And all these rhetorical questions ended on, I'm God. I know infinitely more than you do. Trust me. Let me deal with this. Okay? And that's basically the same question here. By the way, whenever we do have the thought of, this person seemed to be good, why didn't they get good things? This person seemed to be bad, why didn't they get bad things? Really, that's just a twisted form of karma with a Christianese label thrown on it, where if you do good things happen to you. And a lot of the Old Testament and even the New Testament basically tries to counter that if you follow Christ, that doesn't mean that your life is going to be perfect. In fact, it means to some degree you're going to suffer more. Yeah. Okay, verse 9. It's on verse 9, chapter 9. Chapter 9. Here he's going to expand more on this death concept. I told you this would be positive and exciting and joyful. Indeed, I took all of this to heart and explained it all. The righteous, the wise, and their works are in God's hands. People don't know whether to expect love or hate. Everything lies ahead of them. Everything is the same for everyone. There is one fate for the righteous and the wicked, for the good and the bad, for the clean and the unclean, for the one who sacrifices and the one who does not sacrifice. As it is for the good, so also it is for the sinner. As it is for the one who takes an oath, so also for the one who fears an oath. This is an evil in which all is done under the sun. There is one fate for everyone. In addition, the hearts of the people are full of evil and madness in their hearts while they live. After that, they go to the dead. Okay, so there's one fate for everyone, no matter who you are, good, evil, poor, rich, whatever. What's that fate? Death. And taxes. No taxes in there, but death is the same thing for everyone. That is the final result of all of this. Now, why do you think he needs to state that? I think he's almost trying to get perspective going on here. Because he's going to make a turn here in a second. He's going to make a turn and start to give a proactive view of life. But before he can give a proactive view of life, he needs to state what's coming up at the end of this life, and that's death for all of us. You see the wicked prospering, it's going to end in death. You see the good suffering, that's going to end in death, because this is just life. This is life after the curse of the fall. The curse of sin has touched every inch of this earth, including you and me, which means that all of us are going to die at some point. And there's no partiality. Presided two exceptions in the Old Testament, Elijah and Enoch. They're the two exceptions, but you don't use the exception to prove the rule. Aside from those two people, everyone has experienced death in life, you and I included. This sounds actually oddly similar to the New Testament in the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus is given the case for loving your neighbor. He says that the sun will shine and he brings the rain on both the wicked and the just. And he's basically saying we all live in the same world. And there's going to be aspects of God, what people call God's common grace, is going to come upon not only the good, but also the wicked as well. We're all experiencing the same thing here. Now, what this doesn't mean is the afterlife is going to be the same in that, but the physical here and now, where we're going to end is going to be the same for both the evil and the just. Where did I end off? Okay, verse 4. This is where he starts to shift. But there is hope for whoever is joined with all the living, since a live dog is better than a dead lion. That's an interesting statement right there. A live dog is better than a dead lion. What do y'all think he means by that? Yeah. Live dog can protect you. Any other thoughts? I think, so like, what would a lion represent? Danger. Royalty. So generally in the thoughts that I've read on this, they believe this to be like a core or a contrast between the different like levels of animals in the time. And so like a lion would have been considered like powerful, and a dog would have been like humble, little dog. Might be able to do some damage, but compared to a lion, not much. And so the thought being is you could either be, it's better to be a humble dog and be alive than to be a powerful lion and dead. Because if you're a powerful lion and dead, who cares? You're dead, right? So it's better to be a humble dog in that. And so he's almost making the case as he shifts to a positive view of life. He's almost saying here, even if you have a humble little life, even if you're not royalty, even if you don't have all the riches of the world, you still have life compared to if you had all those things and you're dead. If you're Pharaoh with all the riches of the world in your tomb, you're still dead, right? Okay. Verse 5, for the living know that they will die, but the dead don't know anything. There's no longer a reward from them. Yeah. There's no longer a reward for them because the memory of them is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their envy have already disappeared, and there is no longer a portion for them in all that is done under the sun. So as he starts to shift to a positive view of life, he starts to expand on the negative view of death, and that is this. When you die, you die. Like, no one's going to remember you. I remember when I was in high school, so I played in the drum line in high school, and I thought that I was the bomb diggity. Like, people knew me. Some of the freshmen that came up after me knew who I was. I never met them before, but they knew who I was because I wrote a lot of the cadences that we did there. And man, I had a legacy in there. I left and I came back and I was like a celebrity coming back. The next year, so that was the first year I came back. The next year I came back, less people knew me as I started just talking to a handful of people. Then the third year I came back, no one knew me. And that was humbling. That was humbling. And all of my glory that I had attributed throughout my time in high school, it lasted all of 2 years before it came to nothing. And so I remember I was talking to a student once when I was in the student ministry, and he was going through an existential life crisis, and one of the things he said is like, I'm going to die and no one's going to remember me. And I looked at him and I said, you're right. I said, you're right. No one's going to remember you. But that's not the point of life, is to be remembered. The point of life, there's only one person that matters that remembers you. Which, of course, your family's going to remember you. But in the grand scheme of things, no one's going to remember you. No one's going to remember me. Hopefully, they're going to remember Jesus, and that's what we preached. What's important is, does Jesus know you? Not does some random person, 5 states over. Are they going to know your name 100 years from now? That doesn't matter. Is Jesus going to know your name when you come to heaven? That's the important part. And he's basically describing that's the reality of the situation. When you die, your memory is forgotten. Whatever love you had, whatever hate you had, whatever envy you had, it's gone. There's no longer a portion for you in all that is done under the sun. You are dead. This is very exciting and joyful, right? Here's where he turns it, okay? He's explained the depressing nature of death. Now he's going to shift. Verse 7. Go eat your bread with pleasure and drink your wine with cheerful heart, for God has already accepted your works. Amen. There we go. Verse 8. Let your clothes be white all the time, and never let your oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife you love all the days of your fleeting life. Which, by the way, that word fleeting there may also like be interchanged with like meaningless. Go enjoy the days of your life with your wife, your meaningless life. Go enjoy them, which have been given to you under the sun, all of your fleeting days, for that is your portion in life and in your struggle under the sun. Whatever your hands can find to do, do it with all your strength, because there is no work, planning, knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol, which means grave, where you are going. So basically, he's shifting it. He's like, at the end of this life is death. No one's going to remember you. You're not going to have anything else to do on this world, is death. So in your time that you're alive, enjoy it. Do you see how this is kind of like a Christian nihilism kind of thing? So like nihilism is God is dead, therefore life is meaningless, there is no purpose, so either live in your despair or create your own meaning. This is, life is meaningless, but God, therefore enjoy life. Just enjoy it in its proper place. So I mentioned earlier that it seems that Solomon is comparing the Christian philosophy of life with other philosophies of the day. Have you all ever heard of what's called the Epic of Gilgamesh? Have you ever heard of that? It's this ancient document that dates, I think the completion of the document was in like the 12th century BC, but it dates all the way back to like the 21st century BC. It's one of the oldest documents that we have from the ancient Near East world. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's a section that actually resembles very closely to this section right here. We can actually throw both on the screen, Judah. Can you do that for me? And so on the left here, we've got the Epic of Gilgamesh, and on the right, we got this passage from Ecclesiastes. Let's read both, and we can see the similarities between the two. On the left, Gilgamesh, where are you roaming? The life that you seek you will never find. When the gods created mankind, they allotted death to humanity, but life they retained in their own keeping. As for you, Gilgamesh, let your belly be full, keep enjoying yourself day and night. Make every day a delight, dance and play day and night. Let your clothes be clean, wash your head, bathe in water, cherish the child who holds your hand, make your wife happy in your embrace, for this too is the lot of humanity. Now let's read Ecclesiastes. Go and eat your bread with pleasure and drink your wine with cheerful heart, for God has already accepted your works. Let your clothes be white all the time and never let oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife you love all the days of your fleeting life, which has been given to you under the sun, all of your fleeting days. For that is the portion, your portion in life and in your struggle under the sun. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your strength, because there is no work, planning, knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol where you were going. Do y'all see the similarities between the two? Most acknowledge the similarities. Now, the skeptic is going to look at this and say, oh, Solomon's just plagiarizing here. Like, this isn't anything new. He's just pulling from this. A more optimistic person is saying, this was the general philosophy of the day, and so in Solomon's wisdom, he's going to say, how do we view this philosophy through a Christian perspective? Like if the world says life is meaningless, so find your meaning in enjoying life, what does the Christian view say on that? And where does the Christian view start? Yeah, starts with God. It starts with God is the root purpose of your life. God has accepted you. So because God has accepted you, what can you now do? You can enjoy life. You can let your clothes be white all the time and never let your oil be lacking on your head. Now, most people don't think that this is like an explicit gospel correlation because like your clothes being white was actually like party attire. But however, the New Testament does make very clear correlations that white clothes mean what? Anyone know? Purity. Righteousness, that God's righteousness has been imparted to us. Go read Revelation. All throughout Revelation, those who have placed their faith in Christ and have conquered, they're given white robes. Whenever Jesus gives the parable of the wedding banquet, that he invites all to come and only those who are dressed ready are let in. Well, what's the attire? White clothes in this. And so we have like some gospel undertones here in that, but the root of this is God has accepted you. God has given you your days. Therefore, go make something of those days. Go enjoy them. As opposed to the world philosophy of that day is life is for gods, death is for man. Therefore, go enjoy life before you die. Y'all see the difference there? In fact, let's throw up the next one, Judah. Here's the three philosophies. So I threw nihilism in there just for fun. So on the left here, we got the Epic of Gilgamesh. The gods have life, man has death. Therefore, find meaning in enjoying life before you die and it's gone, because that's the end of it, right? Nihilism is there is no God, there is no meaning. Therefore, either live in despair or create your own meaning, which, by the way, has derived into the live your truth statement. Have y'all heard that statement before? Like everyone has their own truth to live. It's basically a derivation of nihilism. It's like life is pointless, God's dead. Therefore, you create your own meaning in life. You live your own truth in life. That's nihilism. That's probably the most prominent view of the day. And then you got Ecclesiastes. God is the root meaning of life. Therefore, see life as a gift from God and enjoy it by following him and keeping his commands. I find that rather interesting, that the Old Testament, some people see, because this isn't the only place in the Old Testament that has similarities to other wisdom literature within the world. And some people see that and they freak out. They're like, oh no, like our Bible can't have anything to do with any of this. But if you view it as, especially in the wisdom literature, if you view it as they're taking the world's philosophies and showing how they're wrong and how God is actually the true meaning behind these philosophies, then actually it makes a whole lot of sense in that. In fact, if you go back to, was it 1 Kings, when Solomon first comes into reign, and God says, you can ask me for one thing. He says, I want wisdom. Right after that passage, it talks about how all of the people, all the surrounding countries sent their most wise people to Solomon to question him and to interrogate him and to probe his wisdom. And all of them left saying, oh my gosh, this is the wisest person we've ever seen. So Solomon had a lot of interaction with the philosophies of the day. And he was able to take their philosophy and say, hey, here's where you're wrong, and incorporate into that. By the way, Paul does this in the New Testament. I think it's Acts 27 in Mars Hill, where Paul goes up and he gives a sermon to the philosophers of the day, and he actually doesn't quote any scripture. He sees this statue that was to an unknown God. That was literally said. It's like to an unknown God. And so they had all these different gods, and they had the statue to account for any gods that they missed. And so Paul looks at the statue and he says, hey, you have the statue here to the unknown God. I'm going to tell you who the unknown God is. It's this guy who created the heavens and the earth, who loves you, blah, blah, blah. Goes through the whole gospel thing. And so Paul does the same thing. He takes the philosophies of the world and then shows them how they're actually slightly off and they're missing it through Christian philosophy. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. All right. What verse did I get through? I got through 10. Okay, let's real quickly finish out chapter 9. So verse 11, again I saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, or the bread to the wise, or riches to the discerning, or favor to the skillful. Rather, time and chance happen to all of them. Again, he's reiterating the point that no matter who you are, death comes for us all. Just because you're good doesn't mean that good things are always going to happen. Just because you're bad doesn't mean all bad things are going to happen. Life is life. Verse 12, for certainly no one knows his time, like fish caught in a cruel net or like birds caught in a trap, so people are trapped in an evil time as it suddenly falls on them. Verse 13 is where he's going to start to shift a little bit, which goes into chapter 10, but we'll go ahead and finish it out. I've observed this also is wisdom under the sun and is significant to me. There was a small city with few men in it. A great king came against it, surrounded it, and built large siege works against it. Now a poor wise man was found in the city, and he delivered the city by his wisdom. Yet no one remembered the poor man. Did y'all catch the story there? So you got a story of a town who's about to be conquered by a much larger city. The only reason they weren't conquered is because there was this poor wise man, and his wisdom led them out of that. And then what's the next statement? No one remembered him. Verse 16, and I said, wisdom is better than strength, but the wisdom of the poor man is despised, and his words are not heeded. And so Paul starts this section with basically calling for like who can find the wise man. Like wisdom is like one of the things that we're looking to attain in this life. And then he concludes this section with, even if you have wisdom, it doesn't matter. Like people are still going to despise you. It's like, so even wisdom has its limitations. You can be the wisest person, yet it has its limitations in not understanding how God operates in this world. It has its limitations in the sense that the world may not value the wisdom that you have. It may not care. It may value other things. Verse 17, the calm words of the wise are heeded more than the shouts of a ruler over fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner can destroy much good. And that's really where it starts to get into the next section there. But one of the things that I always find really profound in Ecclesiastes is this concept of everything is meaningless under the sun. And Pastor Lee mentioned this on the introduction to Ecclesiastes, but there's this theologian named Campbell. I can't remember his first name. But he famously said that Solomon kept searching for meaning in things under the sun. What really Solomon needed to do was to get over the sun. And once he got over the sun, that's where he found meaning. And so over the sun meaning like heaven, like God and all that. And so as long as you're looking for things under the sun to give you meaning in life, you will find life to be meaningless. But the moment you go beyond the sun to get over the sun and find God, all of a sudden life starts to find its meaning in that. Okay, any questions or comments, thoughts? Thank you. It was depressing, but then it shifted at the end. It was a little bit more joyful by the end. There we go. I always find if you leave Ecclesiastes depressed, then you might have read it wrong, because you're only going to be depressed by Ecclesiastes if you don't have God, because that's really the conclusion. Is that life is meaningless without God. He actually agrees with Nietzsche, because Nietzsche declared, God is dead, we killed God, and therefore life is now meaningless. And Solomon would agree, yeah, without God, life is meaningless. But God is, so therefore life can have meaning. All right, cool. All right, well, that's going to conclude the Bible study, and we will now move into our prayer and praise, which raise your hand if you need one, and I will be one of those people raising my hand for whoever has it. It is Ann tonight. Ann is the